mean, some of the goals that we just saw were absolutely ridiculous.
Whoever plays them in that semi-final will fancy their chance.
And you don't get the name tops off Younis for nothing.
If anyone knows what that means at home, let us know. That is unbelievable. Hello and welcome A-League fans to another episode of the A-League's Download presented by Isuzu Ute. We're finally at the end of the season. Newcastle have got their hands on the Premier's plate, yet the form of the top six is tilting towards those that have just crept in. It's going to be very interesting as we lick our lips for finals. I am your host, Jake Barker-Daish, and joined today by former Melbourne City goalkeeper Thomas Sorensen and also the left-sided magician of Perth, Naum Sekulovski. Guys, welcome to the show.
Too much credit.
Thank you. And yeah, as you said, it's all heating up. And, who wants to play who in those elimination finals?
Yeah, well, you've got a bit more of a smile on your face.
Yeah, City are doing pretty well.
Yeah, the form we spoke about. We're going to speak a lot about the form of some of the teams on the bottom end of the top six. But, Butka, we've got to start with our bangers of the week because Youstin Salas, this was his first goal in the A-League. And what a way to do it. Unbelievable.
We'll talk about a first goal. This is how you want to announce yourself. It just goes bang and absolutely pile drives it. And I mean, we think about that technique. That might be his opposite foot. He's a natural right back. So to put that over Beachy, it's an absolute gem.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, Thomas, to open your account in the A-League.
No, and sadly it wasn't for the win because that's at least it gave him a little shot to get back in the game, and they actually had a late chance as well. So he could have been decisive, but it's definitely one you'll remember as a player for sure.
It's on the highlight reel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, a man that's going to feature in this next segment, I'm sure, is a guy we're going to be talking about because he's had a great season. But Eli Adams continued, Thomas, on the weekend to show his form in front of goal.
Yeah, and this is what he can do. You know, these shots from distance, we've seen him do it on free kicks, and he hits it with a bit of movement. It's difficult for the keeper, but I still think Warszawski will be disappointed. You know, it sort of goes under him. It's not in the bottom corner, and again, it gave Newcastle a lifeline in the game, but Adams, he has been, and I think you're going to talk about him later.
I will. Repeat offender.
He's been one of the highlights of the season, I think, in the league.
Yeah, he keeps making a difference in big games, and a man that we used to love watching make a big difference for Celtic. That man's Scotty McDonald, but I know a former teammate of yours.
Yeah,
he had one of the saves of the season, you could say, on the sidelines. But let's have a look at this because a cross came to him on the sideline for a little report after 16 minutes, and a fumble, but then a good save.
Let's go down to the sideline. Scott McDonald, former Socceroo, joins us. Scotty, your observations on the first 16 minutes and maybe some thoughts on that clash that Ferreira continues to be assessed for.
And then
fashionably late, I would say.
Like there's a fair bit of fresh
Good evening, gentlemen. Sorry, I didn't turn on the on button there. But Brisbane Roar certainly turned the on button from the start. Just like normal proceedings for Brisbane Roar, they seem to start games really, really well.
Scotty comes in like Sandra Sully with the late news on Channel 10, the poor bugger. But it's a decent save. I'm not going to lie. He comes in, so you can't buy experience. We love Scotty, and a little bit of fun on Friday or Saturday night footy.
Those on and off buttons can be a bit tricky.
Yeah, they can be. Yeah,
are they colour coded, Tomo?
No, you can forget. But he did. He tied that into Brisbane Roar. I don't know how he's made a fumble and tied it into Brisbane Roar starting the game well. So kudos to you, Scotty, for that one, guys. We finally got the talking point we've been waiting for. We've been kept kind of speculating on Auckland and Newcastle, who's going to win it, who's going to have their chances. Newcastle finally have got the Premier's plate. They confirmed their spot in the Asian Champions League the other week, guys. They've been incredible, really. I mean, 14 wins. We know they've had 8 losses, but only 3 draws. There was a long period there where they were conceding goals, and it felt like they were just going to suffer in a lot of games, and they didn't start the season well, Thomas, the first 5 or 6 games, but the resilience of this team throughout the premiership season has been fantastic, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think that the way it's been built up, it was actually a great insight. We had on Friday, we had Eli Adams at the pod after he got man of the match, and just to hear how he talks about the way they approach the week, they work hard, and then the game is just a fun time. That's what they're looking forward to. There's, time to take the pressure off, enjoy. You can see some of the warm-up drills they have. And I think Mark Milligan has definitely instills that belief in them. And it's taken, as you said, they lost 5 of their last 7. We forget about that. But that run they had mid-season, the belief, and I think, just so many players skipping in. I think, they've been spread. The goals have been spread all over. Back, I think
it's
that's been
unbelievable,
the great thing to see. There's not one player.
And you talk about that spread. I mean, you just mentioned resilience, Jakey. You mentioned that spread of players. To have that in the bank is really something that we haven't probably seen from any other team in this league. And you talk about resilience, Jakey. You talk about resilience. I think it's 90th plus minute they win against Sydney. We look at the game against Adelaide, 90 plus they secure a draw, and then Victory, same thing. So clearly that belief, Tomo, that they have within that squad means that they can grind out results as well. Which is
we see it,
important.
like, it's top class goals. Like, it's a highlight reel that any team will be happy with, and you know, again, so many different players, playing types. You know, here we obviously see Eli Adams and
doing his thing. Yeah.
Doing his thing.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you got Lucky Rolls, who's that box player. You know, so many different. I think
Options.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I want an honest answer from you guys, because when did you guys believe that they were going to win the premiership race? Was there a point that you guys were convinced? Were you not convinced up until they actually got it on the weekend, or were you certain that they couldn't be caught with the way they were playing? What do you reckon, Butker?
So for me, you look at when they get some of these goals. I think Sydney, they won the game in the 90th minute. Last week, I mentioned just earlier that they secured the draw with Victory in the 90 plus minute the week before against Adelaide. So I think teams that don't give up and have that ability to keep going, even when they're down, when their back's against the wall, that's golden. That's like rocking horse poo. And to have that attitude and that belief within a squad is massive.
What did you say there? That's like rocking.
It's
what?
like rocking horse poo.
It
doesn't exist.
If anyone knows what that means at home, let us know. That is unbelievable.
Yeah, okay.
But okay,
we
fair
learned
enough.
something new on the show.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I think the crucial point, and probably for the belief that we talked about, was that early January where, you know, they won against Auckland and then they backed it up against Melbourne City. You know, that is probably where, you know, you start to believe, that okay, we can compete against potentially the two best teams in the league, go back to back, and then obviously they had those 8 games they won in a row, and that made the massive difference. That shot them right up to the top of the table. And as you said, it probably hasn't been overly convincing the last 4 or 5 games, but they've showed resilience. They've got the results.
Yeah, you mentioned those 8 games they won in a row. They went 10 games undefeated as well. They're on the verge of breaking an A-League record. That's how good they were. I think around that time, that's when I started to get convinced about them, because since then, it almost feels like they haven't played an unbelievable game or a really strong game for their standards that they set through that period. But they're still getting results. I mean, we talk about Newcastle's players, and it's hard to pick a specific player that's been some of their best, because they're all contributing, and that's what makes them so special. But if you were to pick one, who's been their best player this season? Who are you looking at, Bucker?
I'm looking at Taylor and Adams, like collectively, outside of the goals, what they bring from an attacking perspective is super aggressive, and I love that they're free flowing. It talks to, you know, what you mentioned earlier. There's almost this vibe about them, this freeness that they can go out there and just play their game. And to see, I mean, some of the goals that we just saw were absolutely ridiculous. There's not a bad goal.
Yeah, I think to me, I think it was a stroke of genius to move like Max Burgess into that holding 6. Milligan saw something. He obviously accepted the role, and just looking, at how he played on Friday, he sits there, he breaks up so many things, and he was the guy that played the ball through to Eli Adams for the first goal. So he has an effect, in both ends of the pitch, and he gives them a great balance, and he probably gives those younger players, those attacking players, that freedom, because he can sit there and you can see that he's tactically well astute. He reads the game really well. He holds the ball. He can operate in those tight areas. So for me, I think he's been a very, very important person for them.
Yeah, you could pick them all. I mean, I was shocked to find out Bertoncello's on 7 goals. I mean, Taylor's goals have been incredible. I thought he was...
Delianov, I think, has
as well.
He's pulled off some great saves.
Yeah. How many Rose on?
He's on 8 or 9. Yeah. I mean, they're all kind of in and around the same numbers. It's incredible. We got to go to Auckland, though, because Auckland, it felt like they had opportunities to catch Newcastle. We talk about going back, a couple of months. They went and beat Newcastle in Newcastle, and you thought, well, this is Auckland coming. But they haven't won in the last month. So we talk about form going into finals. I mean, they seem to have missed out on a few opportunities, Thomas. Are you concerned about them at all going into finals with the way they're stacking up?
For me, I think a massive miss has been Francis de Vries. He's been out for the last 3 or 4 games. I think he probably means more to them and creates more chances than we think. And obviously Corrigan was, he wasn't on the bench. He'd been sent off the week before, and just some things where we had hoped that, or Auckland would have hoped when Sakai comes back, suddenly we'll have the band back together and we'll go on. And it hasn't quite clicked. They're not scoring. They're conceding too many goals, and that's the worry going into finals. It's a little bit like last year. They go into finals and then they stumble against Victory, and whoever, at least at this moment in time, whoever plays them in that semi-final will fancy their chances. Yeah,
it seems if they don't have that Lockie Brook magic or that Jesse Randall spurt of power or Cosgrove, there's not much going for them and they really do rely on those 3 to get going. But just their last 4, Macarthur, they had a 2-1 loss. They had a draw, 1-1 with Adelaide, Victory a 2-2 draw, and then the loss to Central Coast on the weekend. Is there a magic potion you can take going into finals to just switch things around? Because there's a few teams you can put in that category that haven't been going into finals with great form.
Look, you obviously want momentum coming into finals. We understand that, we get that. I think they've got the cattle. You just mentioned a couple of great names. It probably needs one of these guys just to step up, a little bit of magic. And they are like, if we think back to the Auckland-Newcastle game, I think I picked them to win the title. Clearly they haven't got there. Now it's just about finding that momentum or that little bit of a spark. Tom, I mentioned, a couple of components that might be contributing to that slip up. But again, they've got the quality and the talent within that squad to really flick that switch if one of them can step up.
Yeah, and we've got to remember last year they were dominant in the league, home and away season. And they went into finals with plenty of form, and then bang, they were out after one poor game. So maybe they've learned from that. Maybe that'll help them.
Time will tell.
Time will tell, definitely. A team that we probably, I don't know if we give them enough credit on here, but Adelaide have been brilliant this year. We love looking at their squad, and we even kind of speaking before we jumped on, compare them a little bit to Newcastle with that age bracket and the demographic of the players that they're using, and they seem to be churning out results. They come from behind win against Macarthur on the weekend, now locked in finals. Positions 2 to 6 can still change off this last round, which is incredible. But are they someone we're not thinking about, Thomas, Adelaide, too much? I mean, you've gone to Adelaide in a finals period. It's not the greatest ground to go.
I don't think anyone wants to go there.
Yeah, so, I mean, are you seeing them as a bit of a dark horse in this race?
Yeah, for sure. For them, they got a big game against Melbourne City. They will want a Hindmarsh elimination, and then they go into the semi-finals and they know they'll have one game there as well. Again, here we see Kikianis and Selmo. It was good to see him getting on the score sheet. So at home, they can beat anyone, and that's the worry for some other teams, that they definitely don't want to go to Hindmarsh in a one-off or even in a 2-legged.
What about Adelaide do you like, Butker? I know you love watching, you take your boys to watch some of the younger players all the time from the Jets, particularly Adelaide, but what about them has been impressive for you?
Well, I love the fact that they almost mimic Newcastle in their freedom going forward. They're pretty aggressive and free-flowing when it comes to that attacking football. And that's what you love to see. Like, as any football fan or football enthusiast, you love to see goals. I think they're second on the ladder for goals for. And it's just having that freedom and giving the players really that licence to say, just go and let's play attacking brand of football. Sometimes it's gonna leave you open defensively, but that's the bit that I love, and I think that can get them through the finals period.
Yeah, it's good point you make there, because you look at Yaya Dakuli and Johnny Yell, they're two of the most positive players you'll ever see. I mean, very rarely do they take the easy option and play a ball backwards. Like, they are running and gunning at their full-backs and creating problems. Plus the Alagich midfield that he's been running all year, Kikianis at the back. It's very impressive what they're doing. So I think there's a shout there that they might be a little bit of a dark horse. Thomas
for sure.
raised a good point. That home advantage they get, if they get that home final.
If everything goes to plan, they could have three home games in the finals.
Multiple, yeah.
I mean, then again, you can, as I said, 2 to 6 can change. Like, this is this is the finals we're going into, which the only team, oddly enough, that we have some sort of air of confidence and form going to the finals is your mob, Melbourne City, Thomas, because look, it was pretty crazy the way they started the season. Almost it felt like a little bit lifeless for their standards in the league, but they're undefeated now in 6 and coming into form at the right time. I mean, we talk about the start of their season. They had 5 wins up until Feb. They've had 5 in their last 6 games now, and they're up until Feb was round 19. So they've really turned it around, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, but also the focus has switched, because I know how much focus there was on the Champions League and how much it meant for the club and for the players and everything else. And the league has sort of taken a second step there. But I think you've seen the quality now, and they're getting players back. Great to see Lecky overcome his injury.
That was awesome.
That's fantastic. So they just look. They look the most informed team, and you're talking about Marcus Younis, and he's the guy on form. Like the impact he's made since he's come. You got Asani as well, and they just seem to be well balanced and starting to keep clean sheets as well.
Well, just quickly before we get on to Marcus Younis, Butker, I mean, for you, what is it? Have you seen any obvious change? I mean, we'll talk about the Younis effect, as I said, but is there anything that you're seeing about the City brand that's shifted from the form perspective, or are they just starting to get results now? And it's just it's as simple as that.
I'm probably going to back over what Tomo just mentioned. It's having that initial focus, I think, was quite strong on Champions League. Now that they've been able to really look at the league on its own, without the travel, without the demand of flying overseas and coming home. Clearly, they've always had the cattle. They've got tops off Younis, who's really hit his straps, which is great. But the whole squad is now starting to take shape. Lecky's come back. Naboo got on the score sheet last week. So all of a sudden, you've got 4 or 5 guys that are really flying. But the fact that they've been able to focus solely on the league shows that they've always had the talent pool. Now they've just had the time to focus on it.
Yeah, well, for the last month, I've made sure I haven't missed a Melbourne City game because I've been dying to watch Marcus Younis.
There we are.
That's how good he has been. He's been phenomenal when it comes to energy, but end product. And we look through some of his highlights here. 7 goals and 5 assists in 13 appearances, Thomas. I mean, I don't know if we expected this of him coming in, but he's right up there now with the best players in the competition, you could say.
Yeah, I think we saw early that, the moments, the burst of pace and the energy, but the ferocity that he plays with, we just saw a few clips where, he gets knocked down, but he's straight back up, and he's like just a ball of energy, and, he has a go, and, he had a bit with Valkanis, so he has a go with, some of the Brisbane players. I just love that. You can see he loves playing football, and he wants to win, and sometimes that sort of anger or energy, that's what a team needs, and obviously he backs it up with an end product, because that's ultimately what matters, and that turnaround, 6 goals and 5 assists or something, it's incredible.
7 goals, 5 assists in 13
7 goals,
appearances.
yeah.
Butker, you love the chirp. You had Valkanis as well, didn't you? That's
I love the chirp because it's an important part of the game, right? Like I keep telling the young kids. Yesterday it was happening at local football with Preston. It's part of the game. Players will try to get under your skin, but the fact that he can back it up, and you don't get the name tops off Younis for nothing, outside of sitting in P3 performance lounge with your rig out.
Yeah.
But we absolutely love it, and that little bit of aggression that you spoke about, Tomo. You can't buy that, especially for a young footballer. Yeah. It's so refreshing to see, and probably part of the reason why he is where he is.
Yeah, I'll give you yes or no response here. Is he the best player in the competition right now?
He's one of them. I think there's a fair few. We've talked about a few of the Newcastle players, but I think maybe on form right now.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say he is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. He's that important to them going forward. It's going to be interesting to see if he can keep it going into finals. Guys, we've got to talk about Sydney FC, Butker, because Patrick Kisnorbo is coming. He's had 3 games under his belt now. Yep. They've had 2 draws and 1 win, so not the worst start given he's coming to a new squad. We know how good their squad is. They've kept clean sheets in all games, but it's the results factor. For them, with their squad, not scoring enough goals at the minute. What are you seeing with them? Because it is such a unique situation having a coach go out that's known the group for so long, a new coach coming in with a great record, and just trying to figure out how far they can go with this. It's a little bit feels like they're rolling the dice here.
Yeah, odd timing, right? I think we're all comfortable in saying that the coach change was fairly odd, and the timing of it was interesting. There might have been a few things in byplay. From a team perspective, it's really goals. Like this team, they know how to defend, which is great. But in finals footy, they need to win games, unless they're planning to just, put up the wall and then take things to extra time or penalties. It's about where does Sydney find their goals. Stammer's looked okay, but for me, that's the question I think that Paddy will be wrestling with, in the changing room. Where can he find, match winners and goals?
Thomas, I guess the challenge they've got and the stat that we look at that's most alarming is their form against the top teams in the comp. So their top 6 form, they've had 2 wins, 3 draws and 7 losses. Yeah, and for that, from a team that believes they should be winning, the premiership title and so forth, that's a big concern for them.
Yeah, it's massive, and I agree with you, Becca. I think it's getting the goals. You're looking at the team, and Quintal, I think he looks like one of the most likely to score. But where's it going to come from? Kisbe, I don't quite know. And they've tried different, and PK coming in has changed it around a little bit. I think they're really obviously missing Lolley. He's a massive creator.
Massive out, yeah.
Tisserand is also out. But, when I sit here and say that actually Devlis Mears, in my view, has been their best player, he's kept them in a fair few.
He's been that good, yeah.
He's been very good, and that's the worry. You can't really pinpoint anyone else. And that's, going into finals, playing against teams that at the moment look really strong. I think that's it's not looking to be it's not going to be easy for Sydney.
Yeah, we'll have to see, because that's the thing they've just got to sort. They get goals, maybe their problem solved, because they are now keeping clean sheets.
Yeah.
And in finals, you just don't know. But right now, that top 6 form is a big concern for them. A moment that happened on the weekend I thought was interesting that we've got to talk about, and I'm interested to get your boys' opinion, but we might have a look at it. This was Paramount's Kat Haddad speaking with Patrick Kisnorbo at the end of the game in relation to an Al Hassan substitution.
Hassan Toure was a real threat up front. He had a frustrated night, and then he seemed a little more frustrated when he was subbed off as well.
That's good. You can be frustrated, but it's the way you sort of show your frustration. He'll be disappointed if he sees that again, and I won't have that in the team because everyone gets frustrated, including myself.
I mean, not the worst thing to see necessarily from a player, but I thought the way Patrick Kisnorbo handled that was really good. But what do you make from that? Do you like to see a player show a bit of aggression when they get that sub, or you think they've got to be a bit more withdrawn there and understand that cameras on them, they're representing the club and so forth?
Yeah, it works both ways. And actually, you watch that and, it's not bad. It's not like he's kicking, everything in his way and pushing the manager away. And there's, yeah, of course, he might have said things. But actually, I think Kisnorbo dealt with it perfectly. He took the sting out by saying, actually, I like that. We need the aggression.
Great.
We need. So I think he dealt with it perfectly. And he's a young player. And you know what? To me, that wasn't too bad. It wasn't a red flag in any way.
Yeah, Botka, you a fan of that?
Look, I think PK's response was measured. I think it's spot on. He'll probably look at that. Toure will look at that and say, maybe, they're on the line somewhere. But again, you don't mind that. You don't mind if a striker comes off, he's a little bit upset, probably wants to get his, second goal in 2 or 3 games. So it's all relative, right? But I think, PK really, really measured in his response. They'll probably look at that and say, let's just play on.
It's something that he'll have, like today, he'll have a quick word with him. So
that's it.
You got to understand, you're part of a bigger thing here. I'm trying to win the game. We were trying to mix things up.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't want to see that again.
Yeah, well, he's definitely a player, Hassan Toure, that can make a big difference, because when he's on, he makes the game look so easy. The way he scores goals, he makes them look so easy. He just doesn't do it enough. And he's a key part for them they're going to have success. He needs to be on, which we've seen at times he can be lethal in front of goals. So, another man, though, that has been lethal in front of goal, and we're going to talk through this one, Naum Sekulovski, because Charles Nduka, he has been fantastic for Melbourne Victory. I mean, we talk about the form of him from a goals and assist standpoint, but every game he has played, they have not lost, and he did it again on the weekend, scoring a double against the top team in Newcastle. I mean, he's been a real catch for them, and we've got to look at Jamestown Analytics here and give that a plug, because it's been a great signing for Melbourne Victory.
Well, it just goes to show you how really the tech sector is changing the world. I think now we're allowed to talk about it, we know about it, and this is a perfect example, right? 2 goals From an involvement perspective, I think every time he's played, they haven't lost. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. And he's also, just on that, his goals percentage is the 4th best in the league since he's come in. So he's scoring regularly for the time on the pitch.
So from a stat perspective, fantastic.
Jamestown.
Jamestown, big tick. What that means from a human resource perspective, I'm not too sure. So there might be a few people shaking in their boots, but again, it just shows you how, I guess, it's not just the world changing, but how, or the impact that has on our game. So yeah, very, very interesting. But he's been a shining light.
Thomas, you were at this game on the weekend. Sorry, what about his game do you like? I mean, what is it that you see up close when you're there watching him live that he shows?
I think you see the physicality. Like he's more direct. You know, you got obviously him and Virgos, and they're totally different players. And he threatens the back line all the time. He's not afraid to get in there, and I think he really got into, Nata. They were struggling, he's good at holding the ball up as well. And then he's got that knack for being in the right place. You could see, I think it worked for Victory to play a back 5, and they had, Lino and Rawlins, and they actually both set up the goals.
Yeah.
But to watch his movement, how he anticipates, he gets in that position before anyone else. That's his strength, and with that service, he's gonna score goals because he'll get there.
His League Cup play's been decent as well, hasn't it? He back to goal. I mean, 11 appearances, 5 goals, 2 assists. 0.64 is his goals per 90 minutes, which I think that means every 64 minutes. Don't quote me because I'm not a mathematician.
I'll tell you what, mate.
It's pretty impressive, I think, right?
Multivitamin. You've got a little bit of everything. C, B plus, A, there's the whole lot.
Just quickly, what are their chances like with finals? Oddly enough, we know that 2-6 can change. One win this weekend results their way, they're back in there. But right now, Victory's sitting 6th. Like they're almost on the bottom end of the finals, hoping they get Mata back. But it's they need to click as well.
For me, it's almost the opposite of Sydney. We're talking about Sydney right from a defensive perspective, solid, and up front struggling. Up front, I think they're really, really solid Victory now. They've got some momentum. It's how can they just stop the leaks out back? Just them slight errors that's costing goals.
Thomas, what did Juan say on the broadcast? What's his chance of being back? How soon are they?
Yeah, because we heard Dealers come out and says, he's definitely playing next weekend. It's all good. He's training. But he sounded a little bit more cautious. There's no contact. It's not fully healed. There was a question mark. So I reckon if I was Victory, even though he might have a chance to play at the weekend and it's a big game and it means a lot, I think I'll rest Mata right until the last minute in an elimination and go from there, because he's an important player and you can't afford him coming in, getting a push in the first minute, and the opposition will know, get in, get tight to him. Yeah, so that's the big question mark, because that can elevate them. And they need to cut out. We saw Esposito, the stupid penalty, the potential goalkeeping error. They need to cut that out for finals.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Well, before he did his elbow, he actually went on the golf course with a couple of cricket legends in Australia, Aaron Finch and Glenn Maxwell, and played them in golf in what was some hurling weather with alumni of the A-League's download, Max Rushton, as well. This was a great piece of content that the A-League put around through the week, but let's take a look at it.
Okay, my short game is unbelievable.
Okay, let's see that. My putting is great, so we're sorted.
Oh, that is so bad. That is so bad for both of us.
Oh, yes. Oh, wow. Go.
Shot. Great shot. Great touch.
But after you've won the World Cup, is it quite hard to motivate yourself to do anything?
It was a good shot.
Oh, yeah, it's a bit. That's
Great shot.
A good shot. Do you know what I mean?
It was quite early in my career, so I needed to keep 22.
Yeah, you can't give up.
So I needed to keep going.
It would have been punchy to retire then. Oh, it's nice. Ooh. This for glory, Juan Mata. Oh, go on. It's dead straight.
Isn't golf ridiculous that you could stand on the penalty spot at Old Trafford in front of 60,000?
Yeah.
And be completely calm.
Yeah, and then you are in the first tee, your first shot.
Exactly.
You're like,
in front of 6 people.
Oh, how good was that? Just a couple of legends just chatting on the golf course. That's a bit of insight into what Archie's life must be like. But you can definitely catch that on. Yeah, you can catch that all on the A-League's YouTube. Juan Mata playing golf with a couple of cricketing legends in Australia. Guys, we've got to get into the audience questions because
here we go.
The season has been spicing up, and as you know, we love talking to you guys with all the comments, the likes, the shares of what you guys have been pushing around the show. We really appreciate it. Every Sunday we put it up on the A-League stories. You can ask myself and the panel any questions, and we've got some rippers today. Rudy on Insta, though, Butker. I want you to both talk about this, but could Justin Vidic make Joe Lolley pay out his pre-season bet? Now, you may have forgotten what this is about, but if anyone has at home, just have a look at this.
Had Joel King and Jordan Courtney-Perkins were winding up Justin Vidic the whole game, trying to get under his skin. Joe Lolley then joined in that and said essentially, if you score 5 goals in the league this year, I'll give you 10 grand. Chris Long jumped in and went, I'll get in on that bet. And he went, no, you're quite good. I'm not going to give it to you.
Yeah, the plot twist here is there's 1 game to go and Justin Vidic is on 4 goals.
Here we go, game on.
There's a bit to play for here.
Have we got lawyers involved here?
Yeah, is that a binding contract? I don't know, but I still absolutely love that pre-season kind of story around Sydney and Brisbane, and particularly Joe Lolley and Justin Vidic, those 2 comments. I think it's brilliant. But he's 1 goal off here. What do we think?
Yeah, but I think there's also a little bit more to this story because he says, the whole game. Apparently the game only lasted 1 minute.
Yeah, it didn't last that long. Yeah.
And I think Joe Lolley said, who are you?
Yeah.
And he says, I'll score 5 goals. He said, if you do, then I'm going to pay you 10 grand. So, for all the excitement of next week, that's something to have your eye on.
Yeah, well, poor Justin Vidic.
Well, we've got to get legal all over this one.
Yeah, I don't mind that from Joe Lolley. A nice little cheeky dig on the field. But 1 goal to go for Justin Vidic for some money on the line. Let's get into the next one. This is from Victory on Facebook. VIC, Victory, I don't know that one. You guys, these names are just keep getting ridiculous. What should AAMI Park do about the seagulls? Thomas, you were there. You know what we're about to talk about. Yeah. But this is one of the all-time free kicks where good luck finding the ball in this one. But look at all the seagulls around the ball here. I don't know what's going on here, Thomas. You were there.
I know exactly what went on because just before this, there's about 3 Victory fans throwing chips onto the pitch. And all the seagulls obviously going in for a feed. I'm surprised, and they nearly scored from it, so maybe a bit of disguise.
Absolutely brilliant free kick, by the way. It's a Melbourne trend, isn't it? You see it across all the stadiums.
It's annoying.
The seagulls are everywhere. It's part of the game.
We don't have a roof.
We don't have a roof, correct. Yeah. Get on the comments. Let us know if you think you know who's going to win this A-League, because we don't, that's for sure. It is a bit of a guessing game at the moment. Also get onto the A-League's YouTubes. Check out that piece with Juan Mata on the golf course. It was brilliant. We are going to be back next week and through the finals period on the A-League download. So we thank you for all your likes, comments and support. That'll be all from us here at the A-League's download presented by Isuzu Ute. We'll see you next week.